Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment in my video series. This is episode number, I don't know, maybe 7, maybe 8. Wasn't planning on doing this video up until like an hour ago, but then I thought, why not? It was supposed to be at an undisclosed location, but it had too much loud music. So it's now at the usual undisclosed location, a bit further away from the noise. But that's neither here nor there. So, what is the topic today? It's a bit of a different kind of topic. I'm going to talk about pro wrestling and what pro wrestling is. Now, you will see that I have a point with this, but let's start. What is pro wrestling in essence? A lot of people would say that pro wrestling is fake fighting. Other people would say that pro wrestling is scripted, a scripted combat form, art. It depends on who you ask. And there's a lot of people who, when someone says, "Hey, I like pro wrestling," they go like, "But you know that's fake, right? You know they actually aren't fighting. Why do you like that?" And you know, the answer comes from just not really thinking too deep into it. Not that they should, no one knows everything about everything. So it's clear that kind of confusion about what wrestling is, what pro wrestling is. But I'm going to tell you what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is three things. The first thing is a theater. You go to a theater play and you see people performing live a certain role under a certain narrative, a certain context. So that's the first aspect of pro wrestling. The second aspect of pro wrestling is also a live performing art, which is circus. You go for circus for the visual aspect of it, the spectacle. And the third um, the third element of pro wrestling is a weekly TV show series, fiction, where the plot carries on from week to week. So here it's pretty clear why people are somewhat confused by pro wrestling, because just a second. Because people look at it and they see something like boxing or like mixed martial arts, where the draw, although is personality based in the fighters, but it's sold as real competition. It's A versus B, who wins is who is better, that sort of thing. And it's a sport competition, and people expect that from pro wrestling. So when they understand that it's fixed, it's scripted, they are collaborating with each other, they lose interest. But that's missing the point, because pro wrestling mixes the three elements that I spoke with combat sports in a way that it couldn't be done any other way. When you're in a play, you are meant to suspend disbelief. It's pretty obvious. You're in a theater, you're looking at a stage, it has a curtain, it has some set dressing. There's nothing too realistic. The if the characters are portraying being in a forest, you can clearly tell they're not in a forest. They're in a stage. They might have like a plastic tree or something. Yet they are supposed to carry out all of that uh, immersion, all of the narrative, the play, until the end. And then the curtain closes, then opens again. You have the whole cast. They're holding hands. They bow to the crowd, and they leave. And people are fine with that. No one goes like, "Do you go to the theater? Do you know that's fake? You know they're characters." Uh, of course they don't, because that's the purpose. You're going to see a play. For pro wrestling, for them to carry on the narrative from one week to the other, they can't have a curtain call moment, where they close the character and then all the fighters hold hands and they say, "Oh, thank you for enjoying the show." Obviously not. They will break the immersion. They will not make you want to see the next episode. Because it's supposed to be a TV series, a weekly TV series. Even though it's a live event, it's taped and put on national television or international even. And it's so like a TV series, like a Netflix series, like a soap opera that you'd see on a regular TV station. So they can't break the immersion. And I know what you might be thinking. Well, but soccer, football, NBA, any other sport, they also have a weekly format, yet they're real. So why can't pro wrestling be real? Because of the circus element, all the acrobats, all the glitz and glamour, all the smoke and mirrors. That's not possible in real sporting context. At least to look like that. In a real sporting event, it looks like mixed martial arts, UFC. You wouldn't go on top of the cage and do a backflip and try to land on your opponent, because it would just dodge out of the way and or throw you off or whatever. So that's why there's MMA, where guys go for the most effective tactics, which is they'll punch you in the face. So you would miss all the theatrics, all the acrobatics, all the character in pro wrestling. So those are really the three elements that make pro wrestling, and that's why it's so fascinating. It's a live theater with acrobatics and athleticism that carries on its narrative week after week. And it's not like week after week and at the end of the year they go like, "Oh, this is all fake." No, it's perpetual. They no they keep on. They never break the cycle. It just goes on. So that's why I find it very fascinating. Now, to the point of the video, because this series is called "I Don't Have the Answers to These Questions," and so far I seem to have all the answers, right? But I don't, because here's the thing. Pro wrestling is so tricky that it even tricks the pro wrestlers themselves. And what do I mean? Let's think of a movie. You have the main character of a movie, you have the main villain, then you have all of the supporting cast. When someone is cast as like a supporting character, like comedic relief, they play out their role. They don't expect to, in that movie, be promoted to the main character. And no one, for the most part, goes like, "Oh, this company is screwing up because they cast this guy as the main character while they should have casted this guy." Obviously, people have preference, but there's usually not a big outcry for who plays which kind of roles. People just watch what they like. In pro wrestling, you have that. In pro wrestling, because it's a perpetual thing, guys want to, go up the card and, reach the main event, be the main star. Which is interesting because technically you're being paid to cast this role, uh, wouldn't that be enough? You're paid to do this. I want you to do this character. And you're like, no, I want to be something different. I have different ambitions. But I don't want to go elsewhere. I want to be here, but I want you to put me doing something that doesn't fulfill your vision. It fulfills mine. And then they all get caught up in the backstage politics and this sort of thing. And even though they're all supposed to be collaborating, there is competition and there is individualism in that environment. And what does that sound like? I'll give you a few seconds to think. What does a team environment where everyone is supposed to collaborate, yet there is a lot of individualism and competition to get to a higher position? What does that sound like? Exactly. That sounds like work. And this is the great parallel between pro wrestling and a normal career. They're all the same. We are cast as a certain character, in this case, a role, the work that you do in a company, and you're paid supposedly according to the role that you play, your importance in the company or in the narrative, the play as in theater play, uh, and the conditions are outlined to you right at the start. And you have a way to get out, and you're not promised to go up, but it's also not too hard to know where you stand at a certain point, to know what you can do, what are your aspirations. People seem to, how should I say it? People seem to be caught up in the whole thing of who gets to a certain position first, who is the most important, and people are employed for a certain role that they don't want. They want a different role. Yet the owner or the person who makes decisions doesn't want them for the role. Yet they think they're in the right to have that role. It gets kind of tricky because work is a big part of our lives and we want to be happy with it, but it's pretty clear that a wage alone doesn't fulfill us, because then we'll be okay doing whatever if we were to be okay with our wage, obviously. But it's clear that it's not only the wage that means to us, it's our what we do each day. And we get this kind of hope that we're going to be just a character, the main character, or even the producer of the movie, of the series, of the product. And that's where I don't have answers to these questions, because I don't know what's right and what's wrong. Should we just accept that we're in a place working and this is what they want us to do and they pay us for it and they comply with the conditions, that we should just go with it? Or if we are not happy, we go elsewhere? Or should we demand more from the company? Should we demand the company to give us more than what they brought us in for in the first place? And also, if we're a cast, a team, what responsibility we have with the others? Are we supposed to want to be the main character, or are we supposed to make the main character look good? You know. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, a bit longer than usual. As usual, when I start the video, I don't know how it's going to end or what am I going to say. For the most part, I have an idea of how I'm going to start, at least, but not much else. But anyways, I don't have the answer to these questions as usual, and have a nice day.